We're at a stage in human evolution where the goddess is waking up. It's a little bit like this whole universe is Shakti, is vibration, is her. And she's decided what's gonna happen if my vibration gets ignored for a little while. And she's been playing that game. But now she's sick of it and she's waking up. And how is she waking up? She's waking up back into embodiment. She's waking up as trauma work, as understanding and unpacking my own personal trauma that's going on from this lifestyle and this life and this culture, the broader trauma that's happening out there and in humanity in this time period. She's waking up as we start to look at our ancestral lines of trauma, which is particular to family traditions. She's looking at past life and incarnation traumas. So we carry all of these different and really four main different trauma patterns within the body: the personal, the collective, the ancestral, and the past life. And as she's waking up by pulling on these threads, because as we get activated, an activation, which some of us call a trigger, but an activation is a better word, is when the light lines up, when we get reactive and when we go, oh, I need to pay attention to that. When we don't pay attention to the activation, it's gonna come back again and again and again, and it'll keep hurting. And sometimes it doesn't just hurt us. Sometimes we turn it back around and use it to hurt others. So paying attention to activation right now is the primary way to wake up the divine feminine, to wake up the goddess capacity within us. Kundalini Awakening is that. It's trauma work. So when you see all these people out there that are advertising Kundalini Awakening and spiritual bliss and using this term bliss and then showing their oscillating bodies, I weep. I weep when I see it advertised this way. Because yes, now on the one hand, if somebody is publicly having a Kundalini experience, it may not be a Kundalini experience. It might be a trauma release, an abreaction. It may be an activation of prana and the breath body. But if it's Kundalini and all that's being advertised is bliss, you want to worry, because Kundalini is a little bit more than that. For however high you go in those experiences, you also go low. Kundalini is not a fun process. It's an extremely devastating process, and it's not meant to be a fun process. This life has so many activations. We have so many patterns that it is overdue for us to look at. As she's waking up, as she's shifting out from ignoring herself and playing hide and seek, and as she's coming into the seek part, as she's coming into the being visible, as she's coming back into form and remembering herself in this form, she has to do a lot of work, a lot of deconditioning, a lot of honesty, a lot of reclaiming of agency, a lot of kindness work. And it takes a lot for us to get there, because how many of our traumas come down to being told, sit down, don't ask questions, you're not allowed to be curious, you're not allowed to XYZ, you're not allowed to love what you love, you're not allowed to love who you love, right? So as we start to shake some of those boundaries loose, sometimes it hurts. Because the only way to go through a Kundalini awakening and to really resolve a trauma is to feel where we may still be carrying that in ourselves, which happens in our body, which happens in our breath. It happens on the layers of our being. We are carrying our histories. What is this body? What is this form? It's a record. It's a library. It's a library of all the experiences that we have. It's a library of the Mother Earth. We think of ourselves as these like human beings that are on Mother Earth. That's not even close to the truth. We are Mother Earth. We are the body of Mother Earth. How is it that we think that we are somehow separate from this earth? We eat every day. We breathe all the time. We create 2 million red blood cells every second and destroy the same amount every second. Where is this constant churning coming from, if not Mother Earth? The wider universe, the wider space, right? So if we are this body and this library and this record, there's a lot in there to notice. The Kundalini Awakening is not an easy process. You want to be so careful when somebody says, come and do my workshop and get your Kundalini activated. Okay, if I'm going to do that, are you going to be there for me? Are you going to be able to help me when it gets hard? Because it will get hard. Are you going to give me your personal email and your personal number? Are you going to put systems in place to help me move through this? Because talk about trauma work. This is major energy work. This is major work of sometimes it's a past life that comes through. Sometimes it's an ancestral line that comes through. Sometimes it's something personal that has happened in our own lifetime. Sometimes it's collective. Sometimes you look around and you're like, I don't even know why I'm off today. And then all of a sudden everyone around you is like, well, I'm off today too, right? The collective is constantly moving and turning. So to have responsibility in a Kundalini Awakening practice, to have responsibility is to know that it is a wave. If you go all the way up and you're like, I'm in it for bliss, that wave is going to keep going. And yes, sometimes it means having to scrape out the mud. We don't learn only in the beautiful experiences, do we? This is why it is said in so many spiritual traditions and sacred texts, including the Bhagavad Gita, that the gods want to come back into body. They want to be humans because it is the human place where we do our work. When it's all beauty, rainbows, and butterflies, when it's all bliss and you're in a God realm, where's the motivation to do the work? What beauty, what creativity comes out of just only amazingness? It requires an experience of complexity. It requires an experience of understanding that there are peaks and there are troughs. And if we ignore the dark, if we ignore the difficult, if we ignore the activating, then we're ignoring the human experience. It is the dark that represents the goddess. She is womb and she is tomb. The cycle of life that goes around, that touches the sun, that touches the sky, it goes back into night, it goes back into the dark, and they are equal. They are equal and they are balanced. We need the dark. The dark is where we come from. It is where we go to, not just on the two ends of life, but so too on the two ends of day, so too at the base of every breath, inhalation and exhalation. We have both and we carry both equally. The Kundalini Awakening shows us that. It shows us that we are allowed to be complex and that sometimes we need help, we need friends on this path because it is an interwoven path. There's no separation. Where does your body end and the space around your body begin? It's a genuine question. Where do you believe that separation is? Most of us think that that's just a photograph in their head. But when you go to the direct experience of where do I end truly? Where does the space around me begin truly? It's a series of sensations. This is a web. Texture, temperature, form, color, shape, right? All of these things are dynamic and at play. We're not separate from this Mother Earth. We're not separate from each other. So as we do the work, we can lean on each other. We can tell each other our stories. We can wake up into the heart that is the one universal heart pouring forth and through us. Is life only suffering? Some religions say it is, but it is just simply pulsation. If you are putting your stake in the ground of only bliss, you bet it's suffering. But if you have the capacity to hold both light and dark, both day and night, both the sky and the depth of the earth where all the minerals are, then you can now play like the great bird, like the great swan, which uses its beautiful long neck to dig down into the mud where it roots around in the mud and eats and gains nourishment out of the mud, takes its head back up out of the water and is able to then use its big beating wings and fly into the sky. It's a beautiful analogy because the swan does both. It requires the depth of the muck. It gets its nourishment from that. It flies up into the upper atmosphere of the sky. This is the breath. It takes nourishment from the rooted down. It also flies up and out. This is the process. This is Kundalini. Enjoy your friends. Take solace in understanding that there is a great return to the heart, and that yes, indeed, it is a process, and it is a worthy process, but that doesn't mean it's always a beautiful process, and that's okay, because wholeness is what? It is whole. It is whole and complete, just like this heart, just like this life, just like the core of all being and all consciousness, which is one wholeness.